Good morning. This is lecture number 8. In last lecture, we have seen reciprocating compressor, then condenser. In this lecture, we will see evaporator. Now, what is evaporator? Evaporator is a device which is used to evaporate the fluid. If we take an example of thermal power plant, in thermal power plant, evaporator is used to evaporate the water. Evaporator is used to convert water into steam. In evaporator also used in refrigerator. Actually, evaporator is a evaporator is a heat exchanger which is used to transfer the heat. Evaporator is used to evaporate the fluid. In the refrigerator, evaporator is used to extract the heat from the food stuff which is stored in the freezer section. Freezer section is also called as a evaporator. In freezer section, the duct of the freezer is inbuilt with a evaporator. In a modern refrigerator, in the old refrigerator, in the duct of the freezer, the coil, aluminum coil or copper coil is wounded, and that coil carries the refrigerant. When refrigerant flows through the evaporator coil, the temperature of evaporator coil or the refrigerant is below atmospheric. When that refrigerant passes through the freezer section, it extracts the heat from the substance which is to be cooled, and the refrigerant takes the latent heat from the substance which is to be cooled and get evaporate, means it convert liquid phase into vapor phase by extracting the latent heat, and the substance which is to be cooled get cooled in the refrigerator in the freezer section. It is simply a heat exchanger. Consider this rectangle as a freezer section, and this coil is a evaporator coil. In this rectangular freezer section, the stuff which is to be cooled is placed. The refrigerant which is at very low temperature, which is at the temperature below atmospheric temperature. Normally the temperature of refrigerant is below 0 degrees Celsius. The low temperature refrigerant, while passing through the evaporator coil, it absorbs the heat from the substance which is to be cooled, because the substance having the temperature higher than the refrigerant temperature. Therefore, heat transfer takes place between refrigerant and the stuffs which is to be cooled. The temperature of refrigerant increases and the temperature of the substance in the freezer decreases. Thus, the cooling takes place. As the temperature of refrigerant increases, actually the evaporation temperature of the refrigerant is very less. Therefore, even at atmospheric temperature, it can evaporate. The liquid refrigerant gets evaporated. Therefore, this device is called as an evaporator. Now, since there is no moving part or the uh, in this unit, only one pipe is there, and therefore there is no work done. Since inlet and outlet is exhibiting at same level, therefore no change in potential energy. Since inlet velocity and outlet velocity of the fluid is same, therefore no change in kinetic energy. It means change in potential energy is 0, change in kinetic energy is 0, no work done, only heat transfer takes place. At inlet, The refrigerant has a less temperature, very low temperature below the atmosphere. At outlet, temperature of the refrigerant increases. Therefore, change in enthalpy takes place and heat transfer takes place. An evaporator is an equipment used in a refrigeration plant to carry heat from the refrigerator to maintain the low temperature inside the freezer. Here the refrigerant liquid is passed through the evaporator and it comes out as a vapor, absorbing its latent heat from the surrounding of the evaporator. Figure shows the system. For this system, change in potential energy is 0, change in kinetic energy is 0, since there is no moving part, only it is a pipe, no moving part. Therefore, work done is also 0. No work is absorbed during heat transfer. Applying steady flow energy equation, enthalpy at inlet is H1 and enthalpy at outlet is H2 and heat transfer takes place. Therefore, H1 plus Q is equal to H2, or we can write Q is equal to H2 minus H1. Q is taken as positive because the flow from the surrounding to the system as a temperature in the system is lower than the surrounding, means heat is absorbed, heat is supplied to the evaporator. Evaporator is a system and heat is supplied to the evaporator from surrounding. Therefore, heat supplied to the system is positive. Steam nozzle. We know nozzle. Nozzle is a device is used to increase the velocity, of the fluid. Here we are talking about the steam nozzle. Steam is the water in the form of gas, water in the form of vapor. It means the temperature of steam is very high. When the hot steam passes through the steam nozzle, the thermal energy of a steam, thermal energy means it has high temperature, means it carries the thermal energy. When the steam passes through the nozzle, thermal energy is converted into kinetic energy. Means at inlet of the nozzle, temperature is very high and velocity is very low. While passing through the nozzle, temperature decreases and velocity increases. Therefore, at outlet of the nozzle, velocity is very high and temperature is very less. In fact, in most of the case, we consider velocity at inlet of the nozzle is negligible. Now you can see the shape of the nozzle. It is a circular cross section. It is a conical. Okay, this portion is the cross section area of this half of the region is decreasing. Therefore, this portion is called as a convergent cone, or the convergent part of the nozzle. Here the diameter is more. As it moves lengthwise, its diameter decreases, and here it is a minimum diameter. Where the cross section area or the diameter is a minimum, that portion is called as a throat. After this, the diameter goes increasing. Therefore, this nozzle is called as convergent divergent nozzle. There are three types of nozzle: convergent nozzle, divergent nozzle, and convergent divergent nozzle. This is a convergent divergent nozzle. Therefore, this portion is called as a convergent part and this portion is called as a divergent part. And the section where cross section area is minimum is called as a throat. In case of nozzle, as the enthalpy of the fluid decreases and pressure drops simultaneously, the flow of the fluid is accelerated. Enthalpy of the fluid decreases means temperature decreases. Enthalpy is a function of temperature. As the temperature decreases, enthalpy decreases. But fluid is accelerated. Fluid is accelerated means, what is acceleration? Rate of change of velocity, means velocity increases with the time. This is generally used to convert a part of energy of a steam into kinetic energy. Means nozzle is used to convert thermal energy into kinetic energy. But thermal energy doesn't get converted completely. When at the inlet of a nozzle, steam is hot. At the outlet of the nozzle, steam is slightly at a low temperature, not completely at atmospheric temperature. Figure shows the commonly used conversion diversion nozzle. For this system, change in potential energy is 0 because inlet and outlet at the same level. Since there is a no moving part, therefore work done is 0, and since it is completely insulated, this is insulation. Okay, since the nozzle is completely insulated, therefore heat transfer is 0. According to equation, energy equation, potential energy at inlet and outlet means change in potential energy is 0, work done is 0, heat transfer is 0. What is left? At inlet, initial enthalpy is higher, which is H1, and at outlet, final enthalpy is lower, which is H2. At inlet, velocity is very low, C1 square by 2, and outlet velocity is very high, C2 square by 2. Means here only enthalpy changes and kinetic energy changes, other thing remains constant. Take velocity part on the left hand side, it will be C2 square by 2 minus C1 square by 2 is equal to H1 minus H2. Then if you simplify it, take 2 on the right hand side, C2 square minus 2 H1 minus H2. In most of the cases, initial velocity we know, or we consider initial velocity as 0 or negligible. We have to calculate final velocity of a steam. Therefore, C2 square is equal to C1 square plus twice H1 minus H2. C2 is equal to under root of C1 square plus twice H1 minus H2, where velocity C is in meter per second and the enthalpy H in joule. If C1 is very less than C2, then we neglect C1 and we write C2 as under root of twice H1 minus H2, and H1 minus H2 is the delta H. Free expansion. Free expansion is an expansion where we consider there is no work done. Consider two vessels. Consider two vessels are connected with one pipe, and in that pipe one wall is placed. Consider vessel 1. In vessel 1, there is a gas at a particular pressure. There is a gas at a particular pressure. It's connected to vessel 2. It's connected to vessel 2, and in vessel there is nothing. There is a vacuum. No gas at all inside the vessel 2. Therefore, it is a vacuum. And between two vessels, a wall A is placed. Suppose wall is opened. What will happen? Suppose wall will open. What will happen? The gas from vessel A will transfer to the vessel 2. Means expansion of this gas takes place. Initially, here the gas is at particular pressure, at very high pressure, or at a high pressure, some pressure. When this wall is open, this gas will transfer to vessel 2 since there is a vacuum, and the property of vacuum to attract the things. It will attract this gas, and since the gas here is at a higher pressure, this gas will transfer to the vessel where the pressure is less, and we know that the energy transfer from higher level to lower level, and the transfer of gas flow will take place unless and until the pressure at both the side come to the same pressure. At both the side come to the same pressure. Since there is an expansion, work should be done, but since it is a control volume, volume remains same. Since the volume is same, there is no work done. Since volume is same, there is no work done. But also it is insulated, therefore there is no heat transfer. Also, these two vessels are completely insulated, therefore no heat transfer. No work done, no heat transfer. Consider the fluid is moving at a constant velocity, therefore no change in kinetic energy. These two vessels are at a same level, therefore no change in potential energy. But air has some temperature, therefore change in kinetic energy we can write, and change in internal energy, not kinetic energy, change in internal energy we can write, and change in internal energy what? Cv into T. Consider two vessel 1 and 2 interconnected by a short pipe with a wall A and perfectly thermally insulated. Initially, let vessel A is filled with a fluid at a certain pressure. In vessel A, there is a fluid or there is a gas at a certain pressure, and let 2 be completely evacuated. In vessel 2 is completely evacuated, means there is a vacuum. When the wall A is opened, the fluid in 1 will expand rapidly to fill both vessel 1 and 2. Pressure finally will be lower than the initial pressure in vessel 1. This is known as a free or unrestricted expansion. This is called as free or unrestricted expansion. The process is highly irreversible. Because fluid from vessel A is going to vessel 2. The reverse of this cannot take place. Means fluid from vessel 2 cannot go to the vessel A. Therefore, this process is highly irreversible. Since the fluid is aiding continuously during the process. Now, applying first law of thermodynamics or steady flow energy equation between the initial and final state, the Q is equal to U2 minus U1 plus W. But since it is completely insulated, heat transfer is 0 and there is no moving part. Therefore, work done is also 0. Therefore, U2 is equal to U1. In this process, no work is done on or by the fluid. Since the boundary of the system does not move, no heat flows to or from the fluid. Since the system is well lagged or well insulated, the process is therefore adiabatic but irreversible. Adiabatic means the system is completely insulated and no heat transfer takes place. If there is no heat transfer takes place or Q is equal to 0, then the system is called as adiabatic. That is U2 minus U1 is equal to 0 or U2 is equal to U1. And what is internal energy? Internal energy is a function of a temperature, but temperature changes with a specific heat. In free expansion, therefore the internal energy initially equals to the initial energy finally. For the perfect gas, U is equal to Cv into T. Internal energy is a function of temperature, but internal energy changes with the temperature with respect to the specific heat of a substance, and the internal energy changes only when the volume remains constant. Therefore, U is equal to Cv into T, considering for 1 kg of mass. For the free expansion of the perfect gas, Cv T1 is equal to Cv T2. If we cancel the Cv, it will be T1 equal to T2. Means during free expansion, temperature remains constant. That is for the perfect gas undergoing a free expansion, the initial temperature is equal to the final temperature. Let us solve some problem. In an internal combustion engine. Internal combustion engine is a engine which we use in our automobiles, in our bikes, cars. These are internal combustion engine. In an internal combustion engine, during the compression stroke, the heat rejected to the cooling water. Engine is a system, and during compression stroke, heat is rejected from the system is a 50 kilojoule per kg. Heat rejected is negative. Heat supplied to the system is positive. Heat rejected from the system is negative. Therefore, Q is equal to minus 50 kilojoule per kg. And the work input is 100 kilojoule. Again, work supplied to the system is negative, work obtained from the system is positive. Here work input to the system is given, therefore work done is also negative. Calculate the change in internal energy of the working fluid, starting whether it is a gain or loss. We have to calculate internal energy and we have to check whether it is gain or loss of internal energy. Solution: heat rejected to the cooling water, that is Q is equal to minus 50 kilojoule per kg. Why it is minus? Because heat is rejected from the system. Minus sign since the heat is rejected. Work input, W is equal to minus kilojoule per kg. Why it is minus? Because work input to the system, work given to the system is negative and work obtained from the system is positive. Minus sign since work is supplied to the system. Using the relation of first law of thermodynamics, Q is equal to delta U plus W. Delta U is equal to U2 minus U1. U2 is final internal energy and U1 is initial internal energy. Now put the values. Minus 50 is equal to U2 minus U1 minus 100. U2 minus U1 is equal to 50. Change in internal energy is a positive. Therefore, it is a gain of internal energy is equal to 50 kilojoule per kg. Next problem. In an air motor cylinder, the compressed air has an internal energy of 450 kilojoule per kg. Listen, in an air motor cylinder, the compressed air, in a cylinder compressed air is stored. Air has an internal energy of 450. It is the initial internal energy 450, that is U1 at the beginning of expansion. Okay, and the internal energy of 220 kilojoule after expansion. Before expansion internal energy is 450, after expansion internal energy is 220. Means U1 is 450, U2 is 220 kilojoule per kg. If work done by the air during the expansion, listen, work done by the air means in cylinder there is a air and work is done by the air, means work is done by the system is a 120, that is positive work, 120 kilojoule. Calculate a heat flow to and from the cylinder. Heat flow to and from the cylinder means we have to calculate heat transfer and we have to check the direction. If it is going to the cylinder, then it is positive. If the going out of the cylinder, then it is negative. Internal energy at beginning is U1 450, internal energy after expansion U2 that is 220. Work done by the air during the expansion, that is W is equal to 120 kilojoule per kg. According to first law of thermodynamics, Q is equal to change in internal energy plus W, that is U2 minus U1. Remember the formula delta U is U2 minus U1 always. Q is equal to U2 is 220 and U1 is 450 plus W is positive, that is 120, and we get Q is equal to minus 110, that is heat is rejected by the air. Since Q is negative, heat is rejected by the air, which is 110 kilojoule. If you write heat is rejected, no need to write minus, it is understood. A 0.3 kg of nitrogen gas at 100 kilopascal and 40 degrees Celsius. A mass of nitrogen is 0.3 kg, pressure of nitrogen is 100 kilopascal and temperature of nitrogen is 40 degrees Celsius is contained in cylinder. The piston is moved compressing nitrogen. The piston moves and compresses the nitrogen until the pressure becomes 1 megapascal. Listen here, 1 megapascal means 1000 kilopascal. Inlet pressure is 100 kilopascal and final pressure is 1000 kilopascal. And temperature becomes 160. Final temperature is 160. Initial temperature was 40. The work done during the process is 30 kilojoule. Now work done is on the system. Work done is on the system. Work done by the system is not given. To compress, it is a compressor. and we require electricity to run the compressor. Therefore, electricity supplied to the compressor is 30 kilojoule, or the work supplied to the system is 30 kilojoule. Therefore, it is negative. Calculate heat transferred from the nitrogen to the surrounding. Specific heat of nitrogen is 0.75 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Consider this system. The mass of nitrogen, this is a nitrogen, and this is a compressor. This is compressor. Compressor is compressing the nitrogen. Since it is a compressor, we have to supply some work to compress the air. Therefore, work supplied to the system is always negative. Temperature before compression 40 converted into Kelvin, because in calculation we take temperature in Kelvin. Temperature before the compression is 40, that is 313 Kelvin. Temperature after compression 160, that is 433 Kelvin. How to convert it into degree centigrade to Kelvin? Add 273. If you add 273, it becomes 313. If you add 273 in 160, it becomes 433 Kelvin. The work done during the compression, we are supplying work to the compressor, therefore work done is minus 30 kilojoule. According to first law of thermodynamics, Q is equal to change in internal energy plus work done, and change in internal energy is U2 minus U1 plus W, and change in internal energy is mCV T2 minus T1. Listen here, we are writing capital U. Why we are writing capital U? Because mass is given, and if we consider the mass, then it is total in change in internal energy. Q is equal to mCV T2 minus T1 plus W. Mass is 0.3, CV is 0.75, temperature T2 is 433, T1 is 313, and work done is minus 30. Therefore, Q is minus 3 kilojoule. That is heat rejected. Hence, the heat rejected during the process is 3 kilojoule. Note, work W has been taken negative because heat has been supplied from outside. Next problem. When a stationary mass of a gas was compressed, when a stationary mass of a gas was compressed without friction at a constant pressure, its initial state was 0.3 meter cube. Listen, initially the volume was 0.4 meter cube and pressure was 1.105 megapascal. Pressure was 0.105 megapascal. Was found to change to final state after compression. The volume changes to 0.2 meter cube and the pressure remains 0.105 pascal. Listen here, initially pressure was 0.105 megapascal and finally pressure is also 0.105 megapascal. Means this is a constant pressure compression process, but the volume decreases. Initially volume was 0.4 meter cube and finally volume is 0.2 meter cube. There was a transfer of 42.5 kilojoule of heat from the gas during the process. Now from the gas heat is transferred, means heat is rejected, therefore it is a negative. How much did the internal energy of the gas change? Consider this is a gas. Initially the gas volume was 0.4 meter cube and after compression gas volume becomes 0.2 meter cube, and the pressure, initial and final pressure of the gas is same, 0.105 megapascal. The heat rejected from the gas is 42.5 kilojoule. Initial state pressure of the gas P1 0.105 megapascal, volume of the gas V1 0.4 meter cube, final state pressure of gas P2 0.105 megapascal and volume of gas V2 0.20 meter cube. The process used constant pressure because pressure P1 and P2 is same, therefore it is constant pressure process. We have to calculate heat transfer. Heat transfer is given, Q is equal to minus 42.5 kilojoule because heat is rejected. Negative sign indicates the heat is rejected. Change in internal energy we have to calculate, that is delta U is equal to U2 minus U1. Apply the first law of thermodynamics, and what is the formula? Q is equal to delta U plus W, but W is not given. W is not given. We have to calculate W. Now process 122 takes place, where volume changes from V1 to V2. Heat transfer from 1 to 2 is equal to U2 minus U1 plus W12 minus 1 to 2, W1 to 2. Now calculate work done. We know the formula. Work done is equal to PdV. This is a dV is a elemental change in volume, and to calculate total change in volume we have to integrate from point 1 to 2. Therefore we will integrate from V1 to V2. If we integrate V1 to V2, we get P V2 minus V1. We know the pressure, we know the change in volume. Therefore this is a pressure 0.105. This pressure is given in megapascal. This volume is given in meter cube. Therefore this will give you in megajoule. When you convert megajoule into kilojoule, how to convert megajoule into kilojoule? Multiply it by 1000. Multiply it by 1000. 1 megajoule equal to 10 to the power 3 kilojoule or 1000 kilojoule. And after conversion, you are getting minus 21 kilojoule. Now put the value of work done in the first law equation. This is a Q. Minus 42.5 is equal to U2 minus U1 minus 21. U2 minus U1 is minus 21.5 kilojoule. Therefore decrease in internal energy. This is a decrease in internal energy. Now limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Limitation of first law of thermodynamics. What are the limitation of first law of thermodynamics? First law of thermodynamics tells that heat and work is mutually convertible. Heat and work is mutually convertible means we can convert heat energy into work done or work done into heat energy. But complete conversion of heat energy into work done or work energy into heat is not possible. Therefore, we have incorporated change in internal energy. Therefore, Q is equal to change in internal energy plus work done. But this first law of thermodynamics doesn't tell us about the direction of flow of heat or work done. Suppose a hot tea in a cup. Since it is a hot, the tea gets evaporate. Tea gets evaporate in the atmosphere and temperature of the tea reduces. Means during a heat transfer, mass transfer also takes place. Since it is an open system, heat and mass both changes. But if we heat the tea, mass of the evaporated tea does not come. Therefore, this process is highly irreversible. It means it doesn't talk about the direction. We have already seen one experiment, that is Joule's experiment. In Joule's experiment, when we supply the work, we lower the weight. Means we are supplying the work. That supply of work is converted into heat transfer. But as the temperature of the water decreases, that change in temperature or the change in heat does not give the work done. Means work done is converted into heat, but change in temperature, change in heat or the heat rejected does not convert it into work done. Means it is one direction process. Therefore, first law of thermodynamics doesn't talk about the direction. First law of thermodynamics does not differentiate between the heat and work and assures full convertibility of one into another, whereas full conversion of work into heat is possible, but the vice versa is not possible. Conversion of work into heat is possible, but vice versa is not possible. As I told you the example of first Joule's experiment. When we supply the work, temperature of water increases, but by decreasing the temperature of water, we do not get work. It is a one-way process. First law of thermodynamics does not explain the direction of process, such as theoretically it shall permit even heat transfer from low temperature body to high temperature body, which is not practically feasible. It talks about the heat transfer can take place from low temperature body to high temperature body, but it is not possible. It is not possible. It is feasibly. It is not feasible to initiate such process, to initiate heat transfer from low body to high temperature body, low temperature body to high temperature body. We have to supply some work, but first law doesn't talk about this. Spontaneity of the process is not taken care of by the first law of thermodynamics. Further, the first law of thermodynamics establishes equivalence between quantity of heat used and the mechanical work, but does not specify the condition under which conversion of heat into work is possible. It says the conversion of heat into work and conversion of work into heat, but it doesn't say the circumstance when the heat transfer is converted into work, neither the direction in which the heat transfer can take place. This is perpetual motion machine 1. Consider diagram 1 of ppm 1. Perpetual motion machine 1 is a machine which violates the first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics says when we supply the heat, it gives the work done. And perpetual motion machine 1 is the machine which can give work continuously without absorbing any heat. Look at here. Heat transfer is 0. Even though the heat transfer is 0, it is giving some work done. Work done is not equal to 0, means work done is in positive. It is giving some work done without absorbing energy. Without absorbing energy, the machine is working continuously. This machine is not possible. Consider second circumstance. Work transfer is 0. Even though the work transfer is 0, it is giving some heat. It is not possible unless and until we supply some work. It should not give any heat transfer. But it is rejecting heat continuously. It is giving heat continuously without the absorption of any work. Therefore, such machine is not possible. And such machines are called as a perpetual motion machine of first kind. A machine which violates the first law of thermodynamics is called as a perpetual motion machine of first kind. Such machine creates its own energy. Listen here. It is not absorbing any heat and it is creating own work. It is not absorbing any work, it is creating own heat. Such a machine creates its own energy from nothing and does not exist. Therefore, such machine does not exist. Otherwise, we could have run our automobile without petrol. It is not possible. Hence, a device which continuously produces the work without any other form of energy supplied to it has been shown by A, which is not feasible. Similarly, device which is continuously emitting the heat without any other form of energy supplied to it has been shown in the figure, which is not feasible. Above two imaginary machines are not perpetual motion machine of Above two imaginary machines are called perpetual motion machine of first kind. In next lecture, we will see second law of thermodynamics. Thank you.